All right, day 2 of ellipses. Now we're going to do the backwards problems where we have to write the equation given certain information. Well, if you understand about ellipses, this won't be very difficult. Remember, our equations are x minus h squared over a squared, y minus k squared over b squared equals 1. To fill in these equations, we need to know what a squared is, what b squared is, and what the center is to get hk. So you need all of those things. Information that you would need to remember is A is coming from the major axis. So our major axis, which is our long one, is going to get us our A. Our minor axis, or the short one, would get us B. We can also remember that equation that is b squared plus c squared equals a squared, and I remember that because a is always my longest unit, so you have to add to equal your longest one. So those are some things about ellipses that you need to remember in order to do these problems. Direction will be important. So number 1, find the equation of the ellipse with endpoints of the major axis 0, 10 and 0, negative 10, and the foci are 0, 8 and 0, negative 8. I find it extremely helpful to draw this picture. We know that the major axis is 0, 10 and 0, negative 10. So what does that tell you right away? If that's your major axis, that's your long one, we know that this is a vertical ellipse. And because it's vertical, we know that then our y value will be above our a value. That's going to be important. Okay? The next thing that you can tell from that piece of information is that this distance is 10. And we know from the center out to the major axis is letter A. So A would equal 10. We need A squared, so we would use 100. We can also tell from this picture that the midpoint of that line has to be at 0, 0. So the center has to be 0, 0 for our ellipse. All right, so far we know that the y goes above the a squared, and it's y and 0 is the center. So y minus 0 squared over 100 plus x minus 0 squared over b squared, which we don't know yet, equals 1. So the only thing we have left to figure out is what b squared is. Well, if we use this formula up here, since we know what a squared is, we also know from the information they gave us that the foci are at 8 and negative 8. And we should remember that the distance out to the foci is equal to letter C. So in our problem, C is equal to 8. So if you fill into the formula up here, we know that b squared plus 64 c squared is equal to 100 a squared. Subtract 64 and b squared equals 36. Now we would say that b equals 6, but what do you really need for your equation? You need b squared. So our final answer will be y squared over 100 plus x squared over 36 is equal to 1. And we can go ahead and lose the minus zeros as the center and leave it as just y squared and x squared. Now it wouldn't be wrong if you had x squared over 36 plus y squared over 100. I typically just put my a in the front, but it doesn't make any difference. Okay, so if you know all the parts of an ellipse, this shouldn't be difficult. So we'll try this other one and then we'll practice in class tomorrow. Find the equation of the ellipse if the major axis is 16. Well, we should remember that we find the major axis by doing 2a. So if 2a equals 16, then we know a is equal to 8, so a squared is equal to 64. We need that as part of our answer. It also tells you that this major axis is parallel to the x-axis. So if you're thinking about the graph, the center is 5, 4, and it's parallel to the x-axis. So that would tell me that it would go elongated like that, which tells you that you have a horizontal ellipse. What does horizontal ellipse mean? It means that the x is above the a squared. So we should be able to fill some information in. We know the center, so it's x minus 5h all over a squared, which we already found to be 64, plus y minus 4 squared, that's the k, all over whatever b squared is equal to 1. So we need to figure out what b squared is. Well, we have yet to use this information. We know that the minor axis is 2b, and in this problem that's supposed to be 9. So we would know that b is equal to 9 halves. So b squared would be equal to 81 over 4. And that's what we need over here. So we could just erase the b squared and plug in 81 over 4. Now another way to write that, or you may see it written this way, would be x minus 5 squared over 64 plus 4 times y minus 4 squared over 81 equals 1. So they may not want this fraction left in the bottom, so you just flip it and it makes this fraction 4 over 81. That would be probably more likely to see this problem.